And welcome everybody to the first edition of the Freedom Network. My name is Gary Rosenberg and I'll be your host each week. We'll be tackling all kinds of tough and fun issues. We're going to challenge some thoughts. We're going to provoke some controversy. And we really want to get to the root of some of the issues that we talk about. To do that, we'll bring in guests from time to time. We'll have co-hosts and we'll also include your input. Now you can certainly email us anytime and our email is timorgary@gmail.com. You can also follow me right on Twitter. I'm at Rosenberg Gary, that's with a capital R and a capital G, on Twitter. I do want to thank our producer right off the bat, Tim Corkum, for getting the ball rolling on this. We have Josh over there on the cameras. So we're ready to go. And we're going to start off with some weekly news topics. With the Obama inaugural now behind us, we have to look towards the future. But before we do that, why don't we look back a little bit? Let's look at some numbers. Now, I was out on the web looking everywhere, trying to find, different consistencies in numbers. And one thing that's interesting about the news nowadays is that you can find almost any number you want for anything. So I did a lot of extra research and really tried to come up with a fun list of his first term by the numbers. So let's take a peek. He visited 35 countries. He issued 22 pardons. He used his veto power 2 times. With all the problems that we were having and all the, the debate, I guess if they could have passed a few laws, maybe he would have vetoed more, but there was so much inaction and so much fighting that he only vetoed 2 things in 4 years. He addressed the nation 9 times. He addressed Congress 6 times if you include the State of the Unions. His current approval rating, depending upon where you look, goes anywhere from 47 to 51%. Approval rating in 2009, January, was up at 65%. We're now in debt, $16 trillion, although when he took office, we were in debt $10.6 trillion. Unemployment for December was 7.8%. Unemployment in December of 2008 was 7.3%. More people do have health insurance, though. That's up 2 million since 2009. And the stock market back in 2009, when things were bad, was somewhere around 8,000. And right now, it's over 13,500. There are about 3 million more people in poverty from 2009 through 2011, and the food stamp program has just exploded, to be quite honest with you. So all in all, we're in more debt, we have more unemployed people. His approval rating is about 14 to 20%, or points I should say, lower. It really depends where you look. We have more people on food stamps and more people are living in poverty. But the stock market's up and more people have insurance. Are we for real? I mean, isn't that what what every campaign speech that he made was about was helping the middle class, the poor people. It looks like the only people that are doing good are the big fat cats, doesn't it? Interesting how that works. I'd love to hear your thoughts on that when you send me an email. Lawmakers call House Republicans' no budget, no pay plan unconstitutional. Did you hear about this one? It's been on the web, very little news play. I did pick this up off of Fox News. House Republicans are toting this new plan. In an effort to break the deadlock, the GOP leaders on Fridays pitched an ultimatum to the Democrat-controlled Senate. They dubbed no budget, no pay. Very interesting. This allows the government 3 more months of borrowing security, so they'll let the debt ceiling rise with no immediate spending cuts even required. But in exchange, they have to pass the budget within that time. If they fail to do so in the Senate, then they get denied their federal paychecks. What do you think about that? You think that a few of them might be a little upset about that? Let's look a little bit deeper. House Majority Leader Eric Cantor out of Virginia, Republican, says if the Senate or House fails to pass a budget in that time, members of Congress will not be paid by the American people for failing to do their job. Makes sense to me. John Boehner called the Senate's failure to pass a budget over the last 4 years shameful. Think about that. That's your job. One of the most important parts of your job is to pass a budget. Anyway, the 27th Amendment of that little thing called the Constitution that we like to throw away so often says that no law varying compensation for the services of the senators and representatives shall take effect until an election of representatives shall have intervened. All right, so what does all that mean? Well, Democrat out of New York, okay, Hakeem Jeffries. It appears the 27th Amendment does not permit Congress to alter its pay in the midst of a current session. So here's the deal, folks. They did put that in the Constitution. And they put it in there probably to prohibit them from raising their pay in the middle of a session, which would be really self-serving. Not too sure that taking it away would be a big deal. I thought that was very interesting. Premiums are set to rise this year in a run-up to Obamacare tax on insurance industry. This is really interesting, folks. Plenty of Americans are going to be paying high health insurance premiums this year. Right as of this year, 2013, and insurance companies are trying to preemptively cover the cost of a tax increase that is included in President Obama's Affordable Care Act. So, other major provisions like the so-called individual mandate, insurance subsidies, hasn't stopped insurance companies from charging higher premiums this year to cover the hike, as well as the cost of Obamacare benefits such as free birth control and preventative care. Premiums for individuals are going to increase, folks, and they're going to probably do it by about 2% this year, as much as 3.7% in the next decade. That's a lot. That's a lot of money. Who's to blame for the hike? Well, insurance companies are going to blame the government. The government will blame the insurance companies, but at the end of the day, you guessed it, you pay for it. The goal was to make health care more affordable, but adding a tax on health insurance does the opposite, increasing the cost for families and small businesses. That's from a spokesman for the Group of America's Health Insurance Plan. So the looming tax cost health insurance providers about $8 billion in 2014. Now understand that that's within the president's health care bill. These taxes go to the insurance companies. It's funny how, if I may digress, when the government wants to pass a tax increase on businesses, they fail to understand that the businesses pass the taxes along to the consumers. They have a profit structure. They have a business they're running. It's not like the government. They can't just go in debt forever. So they have to then increase their revenues. While the new law will provide insurance for millions of Americans and curtail insured having to cover the medical bills of the uninsured, insurance providers are questioning the fairness of the tax. And in doing so, they're going to pass it right on to you. Other notables from around the web, just some fun stuff that I picked up. Former New Orleans Mayor Ray Nagin is charged with bribery and fraud. Surprised. In haste, the state of New York passed a gun control law, which we'll talk about gun control a little bit later, that does not exempt police officers from a ban on high-capacity magazines. Oh, it should be real safe in New York now because people can't really have guns. Now, the cops can't even have guns. I'm sure they'll fix that, though. Weekly jobless claims are up 4,000 to 371,000. That's a pretty big number there, folks. I hope that you watching have work, but I'm sure that people that are watching don't have work. Real Clear Politics polls show 52% approve of Obama, 15% approve of Congress. Wow, Congress is in really bad shape right now. 56% think the country is on the wrong track. So this is what we talked about with polls. And we have a poll that comes out from Real Clear that says 52% of people approve of Obama, and 56% of the people think that the country is headed in the wrong direction. Does that even make sense? I mean, Obama's supposed to have all this power. He's supposed to have all this charisma. He's supposed to be able to get all these things done. Are you really telling me that several hundred lawmakers in one chamber of Congress can prevent him from doing most anything that he wants? I don't buy it. I just don't buy it. There's some news for you. We're going to move into our feature now, Stupid Things That Politicians Say. Right here, you said he's the worst Republican. Lying.
I did not have sexual relations with that woman.
Enemies are innovative and resourceful, and so are we. They never stop thinking about new ways to harm our country and our people, and neither do we.
I've now been in 57 states. I think one left to go.
I like being able to fire people who provide services to me.
I have never profited from public service.
But we have to pass the bill so that you can find out what is in it.
If I see it, it's bull. Come on, man. What are you doing?
I never told anybody to lie, not a single time, never.
So you agreed with President Obama on Libya or not?
Okay, Libya.
I'm not concerned about the very poor. We have a safety net there.
The Prime Minister of India? The new Prime Minister of India is, no.
These allegations are false.
I have never obstructed justice.
But you know what? It would cost about the same as what we would spend over the course of 10 years. It would cost what it would cost us. All right. Okay. We're going to. It would cost us about the same as
$10,000 bet? I'm not in the betting business.
Oh, okay.
Well, I'm not a crook.
You don't know my state. My state was a slave state. My state is a border state. My state is the 8th largest black population in the country. My state is anything from a northeast liberal state.
A fine host for the OPEC summit. I appreciate APEC summit, you know.
But if they make a mistake, I don't want them punished with a baby.
Corporations are people, my friend.
Again, I want to thank you all for, and Brownie, you're doing a heck of a job. The team of directors working 24.
In Delaware, the largest growth in population is Indian Americans moving from India. You cannot go to a 7-Eleven or a Dunkin' Donuts unless you have a slight Indian accent. I'm not joking.
I oppose breaching those dams. I know the human being and fish can coexist peacefully.
They end up taking up a hospital bed. It costs you gave them treatment early, and they got some treatment and a breathalyzer.
And then we're going to Washington, D.C. to take back the White House. Yeah!
Who am I? Why am I here?
This election year, the choice is clear. One man stands ready to deliver change we desperately need. A man I'm proud to call my friend. A man who will be the next president of the United States, Barack America.
Chuck Graham, state senator's here. Chuck, stand up, Chuck. Let him see you. Oh, God love you. What am I talking about? I tell you what, you're making everybody else stand up, though, pal. Thank you very, very much. I tell you what, stand up for Chuck. Thank you, pal. You can tell I'm new. Good to see you, buddy. Thank you.
Biden, words have in the past gotten you in trouble, words that were borrowed and words that some found hateful. An editorial in the Los Angeles Times said, in addition to his uncontrolled verbosity, Biden is a gaffe machine. Can you reassure voters in this country that you would have the discipline you would need on the world stage, Senator?
Yes.
Well, that's really some funny stuff in there. You know, Tim put a lot of work into putting that together, and it's interesting what people say, and it does kind of go one party to the next. You find it all the time. They just think that we are stupid. And that's one of the purposes of being here with you week after week, is to find some of this stuff and bring it to the top on the most local of levels and talk right to people right in their living rooms, just like you. We're going to talk about stimulus spending for a little while. This has come from recovery.gov. I got some of this information. First of all, there's three main areas where our money is being spent when it comes to the stimulus, okay? We have tax benefits, contracts, grants and loans, and entitlements, okay? So we have $290 billion in tax benefits. Hold on, back up the old happy wagon. My taxes just went up. Did yours? Now, I don't make $250,000 a year or more, and I was promised level taxes, if not a decrease, by everybody that was running for any office anywhere from any party. So, where's the $290 billion in tax relief? Because it certainly ain't in my pocket. I don't know if it's in yours. The contracts, grants, and loans are $248 billion, and entitlements are $241 billion. Yeah, all those numbers are in billions. That's what's out there right now that they've spent, that I could find, that I could add up. And believe me, you got to run all over the web to at least get an average or a baseline. Massachusetts seems to have got about $8 million in funds. $8 million. And all these billions? And I thought that we had a governor that was friendly with the president. I thought that we had a state controlled by a party that's certainly friendly to Washington. And that's what we got? Well, that's what I could find anyway. If you find different, use that email address and let me know. But that's since 2009. That's what we've been able to get. It bought us about 5,500 jobs. So that's about $1,450 a job. So we're paying for them. Now, whether those jobs have been sustained, whether they have been replaced, going to have to dig a little bit deeper on that. And that's something we will do. We will do plenty of digging on this show. Right here in Stoughton, I found $150,000 to the Housing Authority. How does that stimulate the economy? What does that do for the economy? If we want to help people, that's fine. I'm all for helping people. But don't take my money and put it into things that you say you're not going to do. And it happens time in and time out, all the time. You know, way back when Obama was talking about this, this must have been 2009, he made a speech, and I printed some of it out here. To you, he's Mr. Vice President, but around the White House, we call him the sheriff. Okay, so Sheriff Joe Biden. I got this from the National Review Online. And I found this information in other places, but it seemed easiest to go over here from them. It's a pretty neat website if you ever want to check that out. According to Investors Business Day this week, new analysis of Ohio State University economics professor Bill DePore reports that more than 3/4 of the jobs created or saved by President Obama's economic stimulus in the first year were in government. Oh, I see. That makes a lot of sense to me. Doesn't make any sense to me. The fact of the matter is we're a capitalist country. And if we want to prosper as a capitalist country, we really need to let the private sector provide the jobs. Everybody can't work for the government. It doesn't make any sense. Because if you follow that to the end, everybody's working for the government. Who pays the taxes to pay all these people? Obama promised that more than 90% of the jobs created are likely to be in the private sector. He vowed that the stimulus would keep unemployment below 8% and that it would drop below 6% sometime this year. That ain't going to happen. Do you think that's going to happen? It ain't going to happen. 4,000 stimulus recipients received $24 billion in Recovery Act funds, while owing more than $750 million in unpaid corporate payroll and other taxes. So you cheat the government, and they'll still give you money. My money. $6 billion in stimulus energy credits for homeowners, which nearly a third of went to credit claimers who had no record of home ownership, including minors and prisoners. Just $6 billion, though. Don't worry about it. The $530 million dumped in the Detroit public schools for laptops and other computer equipment have had little, if any, measurable academic benefits. They're not showing improvement in the schools. We could talk about the schools for a long time because everybody just wants to keep putting more money into them. But if that was what was going to make the schools wonderful, if that was going to make it all happen, then we'd have the best schools in the world right now because we've put nothing but money, and more money into the schools. $6.7 million cost per job under the $50 billion stimulus-funded Green Energy Loan Program, which funded politically connected but now bankrupt firms like Solyndra, $535 million. Abowed Solar for $400 million. Beacon Power, $43 million. A123, $250 million. And $119 million to Earner One. This means nothing to me. Does it mean anything to you? I read it. I had to go back and say, what are these? The $1 million in stimulus cash that went to Big Bird and Sesame Street to promote healthy eating created a theoretical 1.47 jobs. That's about $726,000 per job. Hundreds of millions of stimulus money steered toward General Services Administration junkets in Las Vegas and Hawaii, ghost congressional districts, dead people, infrastructure to nowhere, and ambiguous stimulus propaganda road signs stamped with the shovel-ready logo. That really burns me up. Nothing makes me more upset than when I have to drive by and look at a sign that I know we spent money on to tell me that we're spending money. This is the problem. Do you see where all the waste in government is? Do you see where it creeps its head up? It's propaganda. That's all it is. If I see you doing the road over, I know the road's being done over. You don't have to spend $80 or $300 on a sign. Government-funded Amtrak station at Wilmington, Delaware, raked in $20 million of recovery money after heavy personal lobbying by the state's most prominent customer and cheerleader. In return, the station, which came in $6 million over budget, according to the Washington Times, renamed its facility after Biden. Bloated costs, crony narcissism, glaring conflicts of interest, monumental waste. That's the legacy that I see out there online. You know, I was on stimulus.org, right? They say that we bought $150 billion in stocks for Fannie and Freddie. Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac. You guys remember all that? I mean, they've done a good job of just forgetting about that, right? We don't hear about it on the mainstream media at all anymore. When was the last time you even heard that? $150 billion in stocks? Treasury Department says that we're going to lose $25 billion of the $85 billion that we gave to the auto industry. That comes from Blaze.com. You and me, we own 500 million shares of GM stocks, I believe, at this time. Maybe it's a little less, maybe it's a little more. The government has no place in the United States of America to buy stock in private companies. And I would have said the same thing if George Bush was in office. If this was back then and he wanted to take and he wanted to invest Social Security into the stock market, bad idea. Doesn't make any sense. Because again, there's got to be a divorce from business and government. Now, can government help businesses? Absolutely. And should they? Of course they should. Because the government is us, and we work for businesses. But that's the reason that they should do it. This is just insanity. We spent $49.5 billion on GM, and it looks like we could lose $16 billion of it. So you may ask, how do we lose it if we own the stocks? Well, the problem is that the stock market, while it's elevated from where it was then, these individual stocks may not be elevated. So when we were giving away stimulus money, in essence, what we were doing was we were buying stocks in companies, private companies. We buy stocks in them. Now we own some of them. So does that mean that I kind of own GM? I don't get it. I don't understand it. If you do, please send me an email, say something on Twitter, do something, because it just makes no sense to me. We should help displaced people. We can't let the governments decide, though, if the business lives or dies. If GM had to go out of business, so it would go out of business. Do we think that there would never be a company to come along to produce vehicles that may want to, I don't know, have a business of their own? I mean, who is Obama or any politician to decide that I'm going to let you live and you die when it comes to businesses? It doesn't make any sense. It's not America. It's not how it's supposed to be. Did they do something with GM because of the heavy money that the unions pumped in, do you think? Because I remember, do you remember Woolworths? Remember that company? That company went out of business, employed lots of people. Do you think that Walmart will be around forever? I doubt it. Things change. Look, if we sell 100 cars in the United States per year and GM goes out of business, do you think the demand for cars is going to fall off because there's no GM? The demand won't fall off. A new company providing jobs to those very same people will prop up. And in the meantime, if you want to take care of the people, then take care of the people. Of course everybody should eat. Of course everybody should have a place to live. It would make no sense otherwise. But at the end of the day, at the very end of the day, we got to help each other. That's who we got to help. And the government needs to help people. It does not need to continually help the businesses. Now, I'm a registered Republican, and I'm not afraid to say that. And a lot of registered Republicans think that we should help businesses. I think we should to a degree. I think we should help people to a degree. But I think there's got to be some more personal responsibility. There's got to be more of it. A capitalist system means very simply that some will win and some will lose. The government could certainly not allow the people to lose and to help the people, and we'd all agree on that. But does it really matter? Do we really, really care if we buy our cars from GM or from Gary's auto manufacturer? As long as it's a good car, it's a good vehicle, it meets the required safety, all that jazz, I'm down. That's how innovation happens. And think about this. We're investing in a company that was failing. Why was it failing? It probably wasn't run very well, because I don't think Ford needed any money. Must be a much better run company. Wouldn't it almost make more sense to let GM go and beef up Ford if we were going to do anything? At least they know what to do with the money. And all that stimulus spending, I mean, really, 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 it just blows my mind. I want to hear your thoughts. Get back to me. Please, give us an email at timorgary@gmail.com. It's just one word, Tim or Gary, just how it sounds. Because I can't believe that the average American sitting out there listening to what I'm saying right now thinks that a business is more important than a person. And it's so much cheaper to help people because people need basic things in life. Businesses have big, huge budgets and gargantuan risks of all kinds. And to invest through stocks, I think that's a little bit crazy. Just my opinion. We'll talk more about this many more times. As a matter of fact, I've got a bead on somebody that I'm trying to get in here to talk about economics with me. And when we do get her in here, I think she'll have a very different outlook on it. And she's a very educated person. And I'm educated through life. That's where my education comes from. She's going to hopefully join us. If not in the next show, we'll get her in the show after. At this time, what we're going to do is we're going to check in and we're going to look at some local news topics. Right here in our local area, lots goes on. And I think that we need to report on it. It's great that we have the local newspapers. They do a good job. I think we should pull some of that stuff out of there and let you know what's going on here too, right here in our little world. Stoughton Fire Chief saves a man in St. Thomas. Fantastic story. Mark Doloff performed CPR on the man and saved his life. So here's a guy, it's on vacation, he's in St. Thomas, he's on the beach, he's walking by, and unfortunately somebody was having a heart attack or so there was some massive issue going on. The guy stops breathing, and Mark saves his life. Nice job. Nice job. Stoughton resident was at the inauguration. Yeah, there was. A guy from Stoughton at the inauguration. And if I mispronounce your name, I'm sorry. Bert Durand, I believe is your name. And I understand that you were tweeting about it. You can see his comments. If you look, it's at Not Ernie. And I really want you to email me if you're out there, Bert, because I would like to follow you, but I couldn't find you on Twitter. So let us know what happened at the inauguration. You know, it's funny, I was looking on Facebook this morning, and we will have a Facebook page set up pretty soon. There was somebody had posted like a bumper sticker, and it said 1 million people attended the inauguration. And then underneath it, it said, but don't worry, only 14 people were out of work. Stoughton will hire an economic specialist. Town planner Noreen O'Toole and the planning chair Joseph Scarrato, I'll get your names all straight, I promise, announced January 8th at a budget hearing. I don't know what that person will do, but maybe that will bring some more economic life to the town. I grew up in this town. I have not driven through town too many times and seen a lot of big differences. One thing you notice is the center is beautiful, and it looks really good. I think it's a lot more functional, which is nice. But growing up and going to school here, as any of you Stoughton people or people that drive through Stoughton remember, you were taking your life into your own hands driving through Stoughton Center, remember? I mean, you would just come up from one side and hopefully but somehow everything kind of yielded together and it worked. But it looks good. I'm sure it provided a few jobs in that sense. So we'll see what happens. I'm gonna follow this story for you and see exactly what the impact is of having this person on the budget. Police responded to a fight at Smoky Bones parking lot. 2 Randolph men were arrested and charged with trafficking OxyContin, distribution, and conspiracy. So that's kind of interesting to see. What else did I find here for us? I wanted to make sure I tell you. You can email us your local news. If you have a local news story, a local hero, somebody that's just this person needs or this story needs to be told, email it to us. We can't do them all, but we will make every effort to get those things on the air and get your ideas and that kind of stuff on the air. That's the idea of the Freedom Network. We want the interaction. What's going on in your town? Let me know. Doesn't just have to be Stoughton stuff. But we want to have that kind of that's the kind of show we want. So on your screen, timogary@gmail.com, fill it up, email us anytime you want. One thing I'll tell you, I will read them all. We're going to move on to another topic now. This is a topic that people have a lot of fun discussing, but it's something that polarizes the country quite a bit, immigration. Look, legal immigration is good for the country, right? We all are immigrants, I guess, from somewhere. So how do you balance that? Well, I find it very easy to balance. If you follow the law and come here and desire to be a productive member of our great society, come on, we need you. We need that kind of innovation. There's nothing wrong with that. Illegal immigration hurts the country, plain and simple. Now listen, I'm not going to call them undocumented. I'm not going to do it. I refuse to do it. And the reason I won't do it is because they break the law day one. And illegal means against the law. So they're illegal. And that's what they're going to be referred to on this show. I'm sure I'll have some fights with some future guests and stuff like that. And I look forward to that very much. But here, in my mind, on the Freedom Network, they're illegal immigrants. IllegalImmigrationStatistics.org says 113 billion associated with costs of illegals. But check this out. Only 25% of it is really picked up by the feds because 75% of it is absorbed by the states. No wonder they don't have such a big problem with it, because it's not costing them what it's costing the states, but it's really choking the states out. They come, they do take jobs. And if I hear about this, they only do the jobs that Americans don't want to do, I'll get into that in a minute. We have about $1,100 per family this year in taxes. Your money, your taxes, $1,100 out of your family's taxes is supporting illegal immigration in this state. The biggest chunk, $52 billion, nationally, education of illegal immigrant children. So they're going to school, but they can't afford the lunch. They add to the amount of kids in the class. This causes problems because now you have to hire more teachers. So you hire more teachers, and it costs more money. Folks, it's a painfully simple issue. Every country has laws that need to be followed. You can't just go to Mexico illegally. Do you know what the penalties are for that? You can't just go to anywhere illegally. But that's okay. You want to come to America, you come right on in. We'll take good care of you. Don't you worry about it. All illegal households on average cost us in general about $2,700 a year. That's what they cost us, the fact that they exist there. A lot of numbers. It's a lot of money. What's it all mean? It means that you're not supposed to be here. That's what it means. We don't want you here. I don't want you here. If my son can get a job washing dishes, that's better than having somebody that doesn't belong here having that job. Now, do I have anything personal against these people? Absolutely not. As a matter of fact, I would do anything to provide for my family, as I'm sure that's why you're doing what you're doing by breaking the law to provide for yours. But there's a difference. I'm not breaking any laws. I'm in a country I'm a citizen of. And you're taking jobs away. And you're costing money to people that are here legally. So what do we do about that? How do we make that compassionate but yet realistic? Well, 1.4 million illegal households use at least one major welfare program. Hang on. Just hang on. How do they get one of the major welfare programs? We have legal citizens that need that help first. There are people in the United States of America under the age of 18 that don't have enough food on their plates. But my tax money is going to go to make sure that somebody that snuck into the country illegally has food on their plates? Think about it. You go on a plane and they tell you about using the air thing in the bag and it won't fill up because don't get nervous, it's not going to fill up, it's okay, but there's still air flowing, and they give you the whole speech, and at the end they say, if you have children, make sure you secure your mask first before you secure theirs. Let's apply that same principle. Let's fix our house. Let's take care of our stuff. And then think about taking care of the rest of the world. If we're not in a position to take care of everybody, we just can't do it. If your son or your daughter comes to you and says, hey, I'm going out with my friends, I need $50. You might say, I don't have 50 bucks, but I'll give you 20. That's how life works. In Massachusetts, there's a big push for illegals to get in-state tuition, as they call it. Really? It just amazes me that somebody from Rhode Island that's a legal citizen of this country that wanted to go to a Massachusetts school would not qualify for in-state tuition. But somebody from Mexico or Canada or Europe or Asia or wherever does? Does that make any sense to you? Because it really boils my blood, let me tell you. Did you know they can get driver's license? Sure, they can get a driver's license. I mean, I'm going to fall on the floor. How do you get a driver's license in a country that you've snuck into illegally? How does that work? What is the end game? Is there an end game? Or do we just bring them all in? I said it before. Immigration is important to this country. It was important to building it. It was important to sustaining it. It is a melting pot. It can be a melting pot, and it should be a melting pot. Anybody can be an American, but you got to do it legally. We talked about doing the jobs that Americans won't do. I'm going to tell you that's a big bunch of hogwash, okay? Because if I needed to feed my family, I would flip burgers in the morning. In the morning, I would wash floors in the afternoon. I would do dishes at night, and I would clean pools on Saturdays. Guys, I'd do anything to take care of my family, wouldn't you? What's the big deal? If they weren't washing those dishes, then somebody from America would have to do it. Because you know what? We didn't have this problem back 30, 40, 50 years ago. We didn't have the problem. We had some, but not like we do now. Are you telling me that all across America people ate off of dirty plates? Lawns grew to 4.5 feet tall? Is this true? It must have been. I mean, I'm going to have to look up and get some pictures because this has to be the case. It's maddening to me. Legal citizens did all that stuff, wash dishes, park cars, all that kind of stuff. You know who's really hurt with this? Kids. Kids that are 16, 17, 18, even 19, 20, that aren't going to college, that aren't going to follow that path. What do they do for work? I mean, they call it unskilled labor. But somebody's got to do it. We're in the stack of stuff. There's millions of people out of work. Take care of us. Take care of Americans. And then come and talk to me about taking care of the rest of the world. The LATimes.com says 16% of illegals are rearrested after committing a crime. Digest that. Now, to be quite honest with you, the recidivism rate in non-illegals is a little bit higher. But think about what I just said. They're rearrested for committing a crime. Do you want me to say it again? They were in jail. How do they not get deported? How are they not? What do they release them out the front door? Have a good day. You're on your own. God bless America, right? Give me a break here. Our law enforcement, our government is letting us down at every level on this issue. Almost 47,000 illegals were booked into jail and then released before immigration officials could take them into custody. They're working against each other. There's no way we win the game. It's set up for us not to win the game. Cambridge is a sanctuary city or something like that. So you can just go to Cambridge and be illegal. And who was it? Was it Martha Coakley that said it's not really illegal to be illegal in Massachusetts? Give me a break. This is who we're voting for? This is what we go out and we decide is gonna run our country? Think about that for a minute. It's not illegal to be illegal in Massachusetts? Oh, that's just great. That's just great. So now we have cities within the state that want to have sanctuary cities. We have a governor that wants to give in-state tuition to pretty much anybody except citizens of other states. Because if you're a citizen in another state, you can't get in-state tuition. But if you're really a citizen in, say, Peru, you can get all the in-state tuition you want. Come right on over to Massachusetts. We got plenty of people here willing to foot the bill for you. Unbelievable. Just unbelievable. All right, let's look at another feature right now. We'll be right back.
The beer guy is walking out of the drive-thru, but as soon as he did, I saw the guy coming with the gun.
The owner of a carryout in Elyria faces a struggle of life and death when a would-be robber tries to force his way through a door to the cash register of the store. The man eventually succeeds in getting through the door, but the owner has a surprise for him, a gun she carries in her hip pocket.
I reacted as fast as I could to shut the door to get a barrier between him and I, and he starts busting through the door. He makes it through, and as soon as I see him, I shot him.
Once the tables have been turned on the bandit, he makes a mad dash for safety, far away from the store and the gun-toting owner. She does not want to be identified, but says her store had been held up earlier this month, and she was acting on instinct when she fired at the suspect.
It was, you're not getting me, this ain't happening to me again, I'm not going to allow you to take this from me, and basically it was survival. I was trying not to get killed.
Customers who ask about the shattered glass in the door are learning how the owner defended her business. The regulars are now calling her Annie, Get Your Gun Oakley.
I think she should have shot him, because if he got in, he could have shot and killed her. So that was really self-defense.
The owner says she decided to get a permit to carry the gun after the June 2008 murder of a clerk at this gas station in Elyria. In that case, the clerk was killed even though she complied with all of the robber's demands. As police search for the robber, the owner says she believes she has struck a blow for justice and the right of citizens to protect themselves and their property.
It's definitely empowering, but at the same token, I'm just glad I was prepared. I never wanted to be one of those owners that wasn't prepared.
And there is a message for criminals who are terrorizing carryouts and other small businesses.
You don't know who you're robbing. You better beware, because you don't know. We don't all come into business totally blind. We know what we're getting ourselves into, and you caught the wrong person. I was prepared.
Hotel near the airport, accidentally shot and killed himself. They say surveillance video tells this entire story. Fox 5's George Franco is live with new details tonight for us. George?
Tom, the shooting occurred inside this lobby behind me, and police tell us the video shows two things primarily: that the gunman accidentally shot himself and that the clerk never had a gun.
He comes in, looks around.
Police say this man wearing dark shades and a white cap entered the Travel Lodge Sunday afternoon around 12:30. He first buys a snack, a honey bun, then heads into the lobby where he munches on it before asking for change for a 50.
So that's my cousin coming out. He's going to ask for change for the $50. So he puts the $50 bill right there.
Police say as the clerk, 19-year-old Rajesh Patel, is handing over the change, the man pulls a gun and attempts to rob him. APD's lead homicide investigator says Patel grabbed the gun barrel, apparently as the first shot went off, and that the gunman accidentally shot himself in the head when the pistol jerked back.
There's two shots were fired, and successfully. So one hit my cousin and one other guy hit by himself,
So the suspect shot himself?
Yeah, that's what I'm getting from the detectives.
The gunman was killed on the scene. Police originally reported Mr. Patel was armed, but after reviewing the video, now say the gun fell away from the suspect, landing near Mr. Patel. But he never had a gun?
No, he never had a gun, and we don't keep a gun at the front desk, as of right now,
Are you going to now?
Probably not.
The video shows a man and woman in the lobby when the shooting occurred. They were unhurt, but Mr. Patel was shot in the stomach and is recovering at Grady Hospital.
We're glad, my cousin's okay. That's the main concern for us, and it could have gone any way.
Mr. Patel's family says they expect him to be released from the hospital as early as tomorrow. The name of the man who was killed here has not been released because his family has not been told.
Oh, that was pretty good. Another fine job by Mr. Corkum, producing all that stuff and making that happen for us. I want to talk about gun control. I want to have a whole show about gun control. But I'm going to tease you a little bit now with a few of my thoughts from within my head. So hold on to your seats. Gun control is a funny issue because there are people that are so passionate about gun control, so passionate on both sides, and you know what? In many cases, all sides make fantastic points, and they do, and I'll give that to both sides. But at the end of the day, when you pass a law, it affects people that follow the law. The problem is that people that get guns illegally are not following the law. So here on the Freedom Network, here's what I say. I say that lots of banned things that the government has decided to ban are very easy. Criminals get them all the time. How about drugs? How difficult is it to go get crack, cocaine? How difficult is it to go buy heroin, marijuana? How about the pills? The pills, that's a big issue, right? I mean, you can't just have pills on. You can't have the OxyContins that we talked about and all. Where does that come from? It's illegal. They're banned. How are they here? So here's what's going to happen. They're going to ban these guns, and eventually somebody is going to come over your house and they're going to have a gun, and you're not going to have one. Not only won't you have one, you don't even have the right to have one. Now, you know what? I really don't care if you choose to have a gun or not, but it's nice to know that you have the option, isn't it? Some things like background checks, that type of stuff, I'm not completely opposed to that because I do feel that this is a real mental health issue, not a gun issue. Make no mistake about it, tragedies very recently have happened, and you'd be an idiot not to feel bad about them. You'd be a jerk to have no emotion about it. But you got to be careful with how you react. Because if you react with a knee jerk just to make yourself feel good today, you ain't going to like what tomorrow's going to bring. The more power you give to a government, the more power it's going to take, digest, and then it's going to be hungry for more and for more. Okay? The first thing that all oppressive regimes have done is take the guns away. It's the first thing. Do you think that it was all guns, bring them in, and everyone just went and gave them away? Of course not. It's bit by bit. It's the slippery slope. You're going to hear me talk about a slippery slope a lot on this show. And the reason for that is because we have to get in a little helicopter and go up so we can look at the big picture. And the big picture doesn't look good. Areas that have more registered gun owners show less crime in almost every case. Why is that stat not part of the national discussion about gun control? Why? Because it doesn't serve an agenda of most of what you may see on TV. I even got to call Fox News out on some of that stuff. You won't have that problem here. We're just going to say it like it is. If that makes people upset, use the email. It's okay. Look at New York. It's very strict gun laws, right? I mean, they're so strict that the cops can't even carry guns anymore, right? And they have a ton of gun violence in New York City. How do they get the guns? We can't police that. It's impossible to control 100% of the firearms that are out there. So the best thing we can do, like you say, the best offense is a good defense. If every single home in America had a gun, you think people would be breaking into homes all the time? Why do you think Smith & Wesson gives you the sticker to put on your door? And you put it up on the door and it says, "This house protected by Smith & Wesson." That's why they do it. Because people don't break into those houses as often. I don't know what the end game is, but I will tell you this. If they ban a magazine today, it'll be a gun tomorrow. There will come a time when you'll have a potato gun, and that will be all you'll be able to carry around with you. So, common sense, yes. Mental health, background checks, absolutely. How you could have prevented what happened in Newtown? You could not have. If there was never such thing as that gun, if the gun was never made, he would have Timothy McVeigh'd it with fertilizer. He would have driven his car through it. He would have burnt the school down. It's sick in the head people. Guns aren't your problem. It may make it a little easier to do it, but it doesn't mean that an insane mind won't do it nonetheless. I want to thank everybody for joining us today. We covered a lot of ground. This is a sample of what's to come. We have some great topics lined up. Great guests will be here. We want your input. Email us at timorgary@gmail.com. Follow it on Twitter at RosenbergGary. That's a capital R and a capital G. I'm going to thank the producer of our show again, Tim Corkum. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. It's fantastic that we have the ability on a station like this, with good people like this, to be able to bring some truth out there, some real opinionated stuff. And it's okay if we yell at each other and we don't always agree. That's fine. That's what makes America great. Josh done a great job behind the camera. You're keeping me pretty busy here. I'll get used to that. Don't worry. I do have a book on Amazon. It's called Generation X by Gary Rosenberg. You can check that out if you'd like. We'll be here next week. New topics, hopefully some guests. Thanks for tuning in. This is the Freedom Network.